Welcome again to It Doesn't Take a Genius, conversation with introspective perspectives and pithy points of view. Here are your hosts, my friends, Max and Marty.
I think that's Mark and Mike.
Yeah, whatever.
Ramsey!
Marshall, so excited about this. This is going to be, I predict this is our best episode.
This is just beyond frightening that it's even on the list.
Wait a minute. Is it true? This is going to be episode 52, isn't it?
Because yes. Our 1 year anniversary.
No better topic for our annual 1 year anniversary episode than good looking. I mean, the personification of the hosts of this podcast. It's just perfect. Just perfect.
Are you looking at the same webcam I'm looking at? Not seeing it, buddy. Maybe you. I mean, you got that whole Dale Earnhardt thing going. We've already decided that I look like Vincini from The Princess Bride, who was the evildoer. So I look like every James Bond villain.
No, wait a minute. What was it you used to say that James Carville? What was it? What was your line?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. People look at me and they think if James Carville and Don Knotts could have had a kid, it would look exactly like me. Yeah. I'm one hairless cat away from world domination. I'm that ugly. So I have to admit, when I was reading down the universal list of leadership qualities that survived all these thousands of years, that the number 3 item was very, not just good looking, very good looking.
Very good looking.
So I had to look down and make sure I had my notes right. Very good looking. It's a universal leadership quality. So
yeah, within reason. To be fair, it says within reason. But
right. We noticed that Fabio never became president.
Right.
Didn't happen. George Clooney, not the prime minister of any country that I'm aware of.
Right.
Yeah. So please do enlighten me.
Okay. So, well, I'm gonna. I on purpose did not try to spill the beans on my thinking on this, because I predict we are going to riff a far direction on this one that is going to be really good. But yeah, so Plato, writes the Republic. It's about studying morality and justice, and one way he does that is he comes up with this fictitious republic, and it's run by this philosopher king who perceives truth and is perfectly educated and is just the right leader, the head, and the head has the heart, the guardians who are passionate and courageous and keep the body on the straight and narrow, and the gut lets that happen. Instead of pursuing pleasure and running away from pain, the gut, the rabble of the city, lets the philosopher king and the guardians really run things. And so it's an analogy of the human. And yeah, the third characteristic of that philosopher king, he needs to be very good looking. Now, my understanding is that good to the Greeks was the same word for good looking. So morally good and good looking was the same word, and there might have been something to that to them that they thought that. And if you read the Iliad, there's a scene where this guy who's like, they describe him awful, like he's it's almost like he's got something wrong with his legs and hunched over shoulders, and he's got hair sticking up, and he's the soldier who says, you leaders, you're just in it for yourself, and you're just here for the spoils of war. And Odysseus like berates him and grabs something and hits him hard to where he cries and bleeds, and everybody cheers. Okay, so the ugly guy is also the guy who's wrong. He's incorrect. He's morally in the wrong here, and it's applauded in the Iliad that he gets his comeuppance. And in the Odyssey, Odysseus, several times, there are these scenes where somebody says, "I can tell you are of a noble family. I can tell you're one of the elites. You're a good person." So they thought of it this way. I'm sure there's a part of both of us that says, "Oh, well, that's terrible. That's very superficial of you." But how
Well,
true is that?
it is, I think of, that's maybe shallow or superficial, but I also think, I'm also thinking my first thought was Darwinism. Right. So if I'm the deer with the coolest rack,
Yep.
right? I'm the
Yep.
I'm the ram with the coolest horns.
Yep.
I'm the silverback gorilla with the broadest shoulders.
Yep.
I got a better chance of leading this thing, and
Yep.
I got a better chance of people following me.
Yep.
If I have these physical, these shallow characteristics. So yeah, that comes into play.
Well, we both have a friend, and I'm going to use her first name. We have a friend, Christine, and Christine and I were boarding a plane, and we were talking about our experiences dealing with clients and sort of getting access to the decision makers when we go into a company, and just out of nowhere she says, yeah, don't truckers bother you the way they always honk? Said, do what now, Chris? Now I should describe. Christine is a statuesque blonde, a beautiful woman, and she said, yeah, every time they pass me they're always honk honk. And the businessman in front of us turned around and gave her the most skeptical, you've got to be kidding me, incredulous look you've ever seen. And to this day, Christine, if you're listening, honk, honk. That's what I say when I see Christine, because she didn't realize that doors were opening for her, whether she liked it or not, that were not accessible to you and I.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, Chris has traits the superficial male would find attractive.
Yes, she does.
And I had
a lot of depth behind that, right? That's the cool part.
She's brilliant. She's a great coach. And I had the terrible misfortune to, inherit one of her previous clients.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So she got transferred and I took over one of her businesses. And I walked in and the first thing the manager said was, who did we piss off? Like, what do you mean? They said, well, we used to have Christy Brinkley, and now we have you. And so later it was, like a year later, and Chris asked me, she goes, how's it going with those guys? I said, well, it's going pretty good. She goes, the hour and a half lunches just destroyed all the productivity. Every visit, hour and a half lunch, offsite. And I'm like, they haven't given me a packet of orange crackers. Like a thimble of water, right? Getting access, unfettered access to chief decision makers for an hour and a half, golden,
right.
And yeah, she couldn't get it to stop.
and none of that matters, obviously, if there isn't some depth behind the beauty, the very good looking qualities to follow up on that access and do something for that client. I mean, let's go ahead and state that. Mm-hmm. And frankly, there's going to be some liabilities that come with it as well, right? Do they take Christine seriously? And of course, Chris, they did, because once she started talking, she was a force to be reckoned with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was the velvet glove in the iron fist.
Yes, 100%.
You had no idea you're about to get hit between the eyes with some truth.
So good that she was eventually hired away by one of those clients. They were like, we have to have her full time. Mm-hmm. So there's that side of it. I look at it from the flip side. I didn't have the very good looking qualities. You might notice I'm somewhat plain. And on top of that, I was very young, and I was young looking. I was scrawny. And so when I started, Mike, when you and I met and we were calling on car dealerships for General Motors back in the day, I looked like I was 15. You all told me that all the time. Mm-hmm. And so I realized I have to wear sport coats. I have to do something to make me look like I'm a grown-up. I have to make my shoulders a little broader with some shoulder pads on the sport coat. And I have to come in looking like I am a professional. And that worked. That did work. Although it did backfire at one point because I wasn't smart enough to think about how I was looking. And I wore a tweed jacket in August. And this owner of a Cadillac store just sort of saw me coming sweating. And he said, "What are you doing?" It's like I lost all credibility with him at that point. The optics are important. I guess that's what I'm saying, is the optics really are important for how you are perceived.
Mhm. Oh, definitely. I had the great misfortune or honor to travel with someone on a national level, and we would go to these conferences. And the person I was traveling with was the textbook level of cultural attractiveness. He had blonde hair, blue eyes, the military Marine jaw squared off with the dimple. He's just absolutely perfect. And so we would walk into this room full of people the night before the conference was to start, and he would immediately be pulled into groups. Right? They'd immediately go, "Who are you? Come talk to us. What are you doing here? I haven't seen you before." And I would stand around. Right? I'd walk near a group. Absolutely nothing. And one of the hallmarks of this organization was that it was warm and welcoming. Right? That was one of their big values. And so.
Yeah.
And so the next morning when the conference would begin and they'd announce the trainers, right, for the session, for the weekend, and they would introduce this guy, he'd come up and they'd like, I would go, wow, yeah, that's the guy we talked to last night. That was, yeah, he's the best, right? And then they'd introduce me and I'd run up and they'd all go, oh, that's the guy we ignored, that we didn't talk to because he didn't have those traits. And it was interesting, once I'd have the opportunity to demonstrate, the value that I could provide, then everybody wanted to talk to you.
Right.
But you didn't get, and that's what I always tell the culturally attractive people, you get the initial 30 seconds for free. People want to initially talk to you.
Yeah.
You have to say something worthwhile in that initial free time.
Yeah.
In order to extend the conversation and to lead or train or whatever it is that you're going to do. In my case, I had to demonstrate value before I could get that attention.
Yeah.
And so, I said, both of us have to bring value. You just have your introduction piece is so much easier than mine.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's one other thing I think about this, which is, we're in each other's landscape, viewscape, so there is a level of, you maybe you're not attractive and you don't get the 30 seconds, but I have to look at you. I have to look at you. And so are you put together in a way, and I'm not trying to talk about finishing school and dressing in a preppy style. That's not my point. I guess we could talk about tattoos and piercings, but I don't think that's the point. I think the idea is, have you done something to yourself where you have groomed your appearance in a way that lets me know, that I have to look at you. And I think some people are going to really wrestle with what I just said, and it's really going to rub them the wrong way. But I think that's really true. I'll give you an example for me. I was a little bit older, and it was another client in another situation. I was starting to dress, a little better, but I was older and I was relying more on my skill level, I guess, and then it happened. I'm with this client. The owner of the business was a millionaire many times over. And he had known me for about a year. And when he saw me that day, he walked up to me, and, the folks at home that can't see this won't appreciate it, but he shook my hand and said, "Hey, Mark." And all he did was just look up and down, and then just kind of, and he just sort of breathed, and we kept on going with the conversation. But I immediately knew that, and I sort of looked at myself that night, and I was like, yeah, that doesn't totally work, the tie with the shirt with the pants. And I didn't look put together. I was noise in his system, and it was preventing him from getting the value that he needed from me. Now, was that the time for me to give him a lecture about, hey, you need to look beyond the exterior and look at no. I was serving him, and part of serving him was coming at him in a way that nothing in my appearance was off-putting to him or noise in his system that got in the way of him getting value out of me.
Mhm. Well, and it's so fascinating because that was always my goal when I chose what to wear. When working with people, was I know I'm never going to look great, but my goal is to not have anything be distracting.
Yeah, right. There's the word,
Right,
distract.
right.
Thank
I
you.
fit I fit in this thing, and
Yeah.
the value that I bring, if I bring value, will be what separates me. It
Yeah.
won't be my striking appearance or anything that would make it harder for people to appreciate the value that
Yeah.
I'm bringing.
Yeah.
And
That's great.
so that, and then I had a case where I was working with a local client, but they were owned by a big corporation, and I was doing the dark suit, white shirt, tie. I was bringing my A business game, and finally the same thing. The owner pulled me aside, and he says, "Listen, you can't wear this to the store anymore."
Mm.
Like, what do you mean? He goes, "The only other people who show up here
Ah,
dressed in dark suits, white shirts, and ties are corporate, and they only show up to fire somebody.
yep.
So every time somebody catches a glimpse of you out of the corner of their eye, they
Yep.
grab a box and start putting their stuff in it."
Yep.
He says
Yep.
it's very unnerving. He says if you'll go with a dark colored shirt, blazer, right, but
Yeah.
you can't dress like this anymore. It scares us.
You know, that's fascinating because I actually had a janitor. It was at a car dealership in the country. I mean, just out there in Appalachia, and had a chance to talk with him one-on-one, just informally. And just all of a sudden he sort of looked up, he said, you're kind of intimidating. And here he is in a do-rag and jeans and a cut off t-shirt, and here I am overdressed for the area, right? So very good looking in our context is going to be a little bit in the eye of the beholder. And again, it's just what I love, your word distraction. I think that's sort of what we're talking about here. And
Mhm.
and you're being intentional about how you show up visually to these
Right,
people.
right. So yeah, no matter what I wear, it's clean, it's pressed, the shoes are shined,
Right.
the belt is on right.
Right.
Just the basics, just so it doesn't take away from anything that
Yeah.
I'm doing.
Yeah.
I
Love that.
don't expect it to add, but I don't want it to take away.
Well, I
Yeah.
think that's just do no harm is what guys like you and me, that's about as good as we can get. So that makes sense. I appreciate that.
Right. No, I think that's perfect. And you know who is a snappy dresser? It's our
I sure do.
announcer. I know you guys haven't seen him, but take my word for it. This is a ZZ Top sharp dressed man.
Primo guy.
So now that we've complimented him, let's see if he compliments us.
And that, I guess, is that. It doesn't take a genius. No rights reserved, nothing trademarked, copyrighted, or even original. Feel free to give it to anyone, anytime, using any and all media formats. Warning, Mark and Mike may or may not make another one. I'm your announcer, and I did not get paid a nickel to do this. They won't even let me tell you my name. So until next time, if there is a next time, stay safe, be well.